Mhm.
Some people want the magnificent things in life while they stay the same and they don't learn. This book that we're talking about is Think and Grow Rich.
Mhm.
So, what does it mean to think? It's very different than analyzing, but what is thinking as the creative force?
Welcome and welcome. This is Mastermind Deliberations, and I am your hostess, Billionaire Bryt. And in this series, we are reviewing Think and Grow Rich. And if you're new to the show or the channel, Mastermind Deliberations is a study, basically, of books that are popular and not so popular that help you understand success principles, money, just things like that. So, to help me dive deep into chapter 6 of Think and Grow Rich, I have someone very, very, very special to participate. This young lady is a powerhouse. She's a trainer of trainers. She is the coach of coaches. And the gems she be dropping are like heavyweights all the time. I personally had heard about her before I met her, and her reputation preceded her so much to where when I finally did meet her, finally did take her course, um, I was not disappointed. I was served well beyond what I was expecting, and I am honored to have her on the show. Still, with that being said, welcome everyone, Betty Spruill. How are you?
Hi, I'm very well and very grateful and happy to be here with you. So, thank you.
Thank you. Do you mind telling people a little bit more about what you're doing these days, what you're up to?
Uh, yes, I have what is it? I have a coaching institute, a school where I train people to be coaches and a particular kind of coach, which fits in with this conversation we're having today. Uh, and it's mindfulness, ontology, and ecology. Let's say, and it takes in what I've read in the chapter of this book: imagination, desire.
Hmm.
Uh, we're asking the question: who are we, human beings, and who are we such that we can author, create, or cultivate a life? And in this domain of money, what does it mean? Why is it that some people have money and some people don't? And then there are some people who have no money and they're very wealthy. And then there are some people who have lots of money and they're poor of spirit, poor of mind, poor of heart. So that's what I do with people all over the world, here in the United States, Asia, South America, Mexico, Europe. So all over, working with people so that people can learn the principles and practices of mentoring and coaching.
Hmm.
So that's what I do.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, you, like I said in the intro, you are definitely a trainer of trainers. And it takes a lot of studying and application, to do that. And so I always commend anyone who can, sort of teach the teacher, so to speak. So,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Now, I was going to say, and one of the reasons I said yes to you, because you're about learning.
Hmm.
Some people want the magnificent things in life while they stay the same and they don't learn. This book that we're talking about is Think and Grow Rich.
Hmm.
So, what does it mean to think? It's very different in analyzing, but what is thinking as the creative force that we human beings have been blessed with so that we can shape worlds and shape worlds in our own and with others and in the domain of richness. What does that mean? What is it to be rich?
Mm-hmm.
So thank you again for inviting me.
Oh, thank you so much for the compliment and for showing up. In this chapter, Think and Grow Rich, chapter 6. And if you guys are watching, go ahead and grab your books. Find it online, pull up a PDF, however you got it, and let's talk about it. We're on chapter 6, and we're talking about imagination. So, first and foremost, and I know you've read the book before, Betty, but when you were rereading or getting reacquainted with the material, what about it stood out to you the most?
Well, what stood out is the how fundamental this is, and that it is. He's basically saying to me, as I interpret it, is that richness isn't richness has to do with what we call today uh, uh, our minds,
Mm-hmm.
which has to do with thinking. So, what is a mindset of richness?
Mm-hmm.
And years ago, when we weren't even talking about mindsets, when this book was written, what I think he's Dr. Hill, I'm not sure, but Napoleon Hill
Mm-hmm.
was after studying and observing and speaking with many people who were billionaires, who are millionaires. And I was looking, what's the thinking, what's the language, what's the practices? And practices is very important in this book, is what I appreciated about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so we're saying if I'm going to play, let's say, if I'm going to play basketball, I need a basketball. And and if I want to play with the professional teams, I need to have mastered certain skills, certain abilities, certain ways to coordinate with other people on the team.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes practice. Sometimes these little kids are out on the basketball court playing away because one day they want to be a LeBron James or Stephon Curry, or the ones that make it, and there are a lot of them playing, but the ones who are making it are embodying imagination, which is what this is saying. So like, I can do this. My body can do this. My mind can do this. And I'm up to doing what's needed.
Mm-hmm. What's needed, what's necessary. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the same. Going all the way back to the great painters, the great musicians. It's a moment, and this is why imagination is so important. It's almost saying that if you can't see it, if you can imagine it, and some people imagine it's a kinesthetic feeling. Some people imagine and actually see things. People imagine, in terms of auditory, they hear things. But if you can't imagine it, whatever the it is for you, it probably will not be a part of your life as an actuality.
Yeah, Bob Proctor said, if you can hold it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand.
Mhm.
And it's interesting that you bring up practice, because I come from a mastermind group that says redundancy creates results. And it's just the continuance of the practice that really creates the results that we're looking for. And imagination is also something that gets to be practiced.
Yes.
And how
Guess.
many people do you know actually practice imagining when they get older?
But this is the thing. This
Mm-hmm.
is what's so brilliant about it. We
Mm-hmm.
imagining all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And what this is bringing intention to your imagining.
There's that I word.
Yeah, isn't it?
I word, and it shows up so many times. Intention. That's a whole nother conversation, but we're going to have it this on a whole nother episode.
Okay.
But as far as imagination is concerned, how do you think imagination has impacted you and your success?
Well, I can go back many, many years. When I was a little girl growing up on a farm here in North Carolina, where I now live. I lived in California for 50 years and moved back here. But I grew up on a farm, and we had very little money. In fact, my father was a sharecropper. And we had food, we had clothing, we had shelter, but there was always a struggle going on. And so, and I remember my father, who was resourceful. I want to make that distinction.
Okay.
Having resources won't have you be wealthy, but being resourceful will have you be wealthy.
I can see that.
Yeah, because my father, like I said, we didn't have a lot, but we were never hungry. We lived in this big old rambling house, outdoor toilet. This is 1948 when I was born.
Outdoor toilets, my goodness.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that, huh?
Yeah. I mean, I've heard of it, but to actually think about just having to go outside of the house into an outhouse.
Yes.
It's like, wow, people really did used to do that.
It was. And when it was cold and we didn't get a lot of snow, but we had winter, and then we didn't have electric lights when I was born. We had the lanterns, the gas lanterns, and all of that. So but what we did have, and what my father and mother were resourceful and confident that they could, and that's what confidence is, knowing that they would take care of each other. Take care. They had 10 kids, my mom and dad, believe it or not.
10 kids. Millennials these days won't even have one or two.
Good. Back then, because we were on a farm and we had a garden. Yeah. So, but there was a sense from my mom and dad that there was abundance. And in growing up that way, and when I went off to college, 1966, and I was in the sociology class, and they were doing the levels of, when you're poor, when you're middle class, when you're upper class, when you're upper middle class. And we were poor according to those statistics. And I went home and I said, Daddy, did you know we were poor? Where did you do that? So, and I showed him the chart and I said, this is where you are. This is the amount of money you're making. He said, don't believe all the stuff those people tell you. And he said, did you always have enough food? Yes. Are we paying for you to go to college? Yes. Did you always have enough? Whatever it was. And every answer, every question he asked was a yes. He said, you're not poor. If you don't have money, it doesn't make you poor. And that stayed with me.
I mean, that's huge. I don't know anybody who would ever believe that if I told them. If I said, hey, just because you don't have money doesn't mean you're poor, they're going to be like, what? Wow.
This is the work we're doing today, shifting that conversation from money gives you worth and gives you value. And because your wealth, true wealth, is your imagination, your thinking, it's your capacity and your ability to create, to design and shape your world. Now that's wealth. And that's what my father was. He was a wealthy man because he could shape the world of farming. He was a great, great mechanic. I mean, when the new cars and stuff would come out and people didn't know what to do with them, they'd come to see my dad. And he would, because he was brilliant in that way. So Are people poor because they don't have money? No. People are poor because they don't have access to their own ability and capacity to imagine and create.